I think I'm the most fortunate journalist on the planet because I didn't start writing up until the mid-1980s, long past the 1970s, where I grew up watching the greatest quarterbacks of all time hit the field. Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, Bob Greasy, Ferguson, everybody in the CFL as well, Tom Clements, Sonny Wade, everybody else. But this quarterback for me really stood out because statistics didn't tell the whole story, and when you needed something to be done, you could depend on this quarterback because everybody believed in him. Now, they maybe didn't believe in the rough tactics his teammates used, but boys, the snake was the real deal. Now, today we're going to be talking about Ken Stabler and some of the controversy of his career. The snake was not liked by everybody in the media. That's why he didn't make the Pro Football Hall of Fame until the year after he died. He should have been in there years before. Now, Kenneth Michael Stabler, born in Foley, Alabama, nicknamed the Snake for many reasons, we'll get into this in a second, was a American football quarterback who played in the NFL for 17 seasons, primarily with the Oakland Raiders. He played college football at Alabama and was selected by the Raiders in the second round of the 68 NFL draft. During his 10 seasons in Oakland, he received 4 Pro Bowl selections and was named MVP in 1974. Stabler also helped the Raiders win their first Super Bowl title in Super Bowl 11 against the Vikings, and of course posthumously he was named to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2016. Now, he became a highly touted football player at the great Foley High School in Foley, Alabama. He led Foley to a win-loss record of 29-1 over his high school football career, the only loss coming against rivals of Vigor High School. He was an all-around athlete in high school, averaging 29 points a game in basketball, and excelling enough as a left-handed pitcher in baseball to receive minor league contract offers from the Houston Astros and New York Yankees. He was also an All-American athlete. During his high school career, he earned his nickname Snake from his coach following a long, winding touchdown run. But later on, he was known as a Snake for other reasons, and we'll get into it very soon. Now, Stabler was recruited by head coach Bear Bryant at University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. Now, due to NCAA regulations at the time, freshmen were ineligible to play on the varsity in the University Division. Stabler was on the freshman team in '64 when the Crimson Tide won the national title with quarterbacks Joe Namath and Steve Sloan. As a sophomore in '65, Stabler was used sparingly as a backup to Sloan at QB, following Namath's departure to the AFL. That year, the Crimson Tide won their second consecutive national title, finishing the season with a record of 9-1-1. They also defeated Nebraska in the Orange Bowl, knocking off the Cornhuskers 39-28. As a junior in '66, he took over as the starting QB. He led the team to an undefeated 11-0 record, which ended in a 37-7 rout of the Nebraska in the Sugar Bowl. Despite the unblemished record, Alabama was snubbed by the polls, finishing third behind Notre Dame and Michigan State, neither of which played in a bowl. Now, expectations were high in Stabler's senior season, though those expectations would not be completely fulfilled. The offense often struggled in '67, and the defense's performance slipped. During the season, Bryant kicked Stabler off the team for cutting class and partying, though he was given a second chance, thus a legend of the Snake. Now, during the season, again, the Tide finished with a 8-2-1 record, including a tough loss to rival Tennessee. Though the season was lackluster, Stabler would provide a memorable moment in the Iron Bowl. Trailing 3-0 in a game drenched by rain, Stabler scampered through the mud for a 47-yard game-winning touchdown, which gave the Tide a 7-3 victory over Auburn at Legion Field. The play is commonly referred to as the run in the mud in Alabama football lore. Now, this was not the first time Stabler would be connected with a name play. We'll get that in a second. Now, selected in the second round of the '68 NFL-AFL draft by the Raiders, the reigning AFL champions, he was the 5th quarterback taken after Greg Landry, Elridge Dickey, Heisman Trophy winner Gary Beban, and Mike Livingston. He was also drafted to play baseball for the Yankees in '66, the Mets in '67, and the Astros in '68. Now, he eventually signed a 2-year contract with the Raiders in March of '68. However, in November, the Raiders sent Stabler to Spokane to play for the Spokane Shockers of the Continental Football League. He played in 2 games for the Shockers before being recalled by the Raiders in late November. Now, in July '69, Stabler left the Raiders. However, in November '69, Stabler said, "I'll be back in pro football come next June." Now, in January 1970, it was reported that Stabler and Raiders head coach John Madden agreed that Stabler would return to the Raiders for training camp in July. He made his first regular season appearance as a Raider in 1970, and of course, the decade of the Raiders' success on many levels began. He first attracted attention in the NFL in a 72 playoff game against the Steelers. After entering the game in relief of flu-ridden Darryl LaMonica, he scored a go-ahead touchdown late in the fourth quarter on a 30-yard scramble. The Steelers, however, came back to win on a controversial deflected pass for Bradshaw to Franco Harris, later known in football lore as the Immaculate Reception, but in Raider lore as the Immaculate Deception. Now, after suffering severe knee injuries, similar to what Namath went through with the Jets, Stabler became less a scrambling quarterback and more a classic drop-back passer, known for his accurate passes and an uncanny ability to lead late, come from behind drives. Now, during the peak of his career, he had a receiving corps consisting of sprinter and 4-time Pro Bowler Cliff Branch, Hall of Fame receiver Fred Biletnikoff, a future Montreal Alouette, and the Ghost Dave Casper, Hall of Fame tight end. Now, the Raiders' philosophy was to pound teams with the running game, aided by multiple-time Pro Bowler Marv Hubbard at fullback and Clarence Davis at tailback, then stretch them with their long passing game. Although Stabler lacked remarkable arm strength, he was a master of a long pass to Branch and accurate on intermediate passes to Biletnikoff and Casper. As a starter in Oakland, he was named AFC Player of the Year in '74 and '75 and was the NFL's passing champion in '76. Again, in January '77, he guided the Rangers to their first Super Bowl victory, a decisive 32-14 win over the Minnesota Vikings at the Rose Bowl. Now, in the '77 AFC playoffs against the Colts on Christmas Eve, Stabler completed a legendary fourth-quarter pass to Casper to set up a game-tying field goal by Errol Mann. This play, dubbed the Ghost of the Post, sent the game to double overtime, which the visiting Raiders won 37-31 after Stabler threw a 10-yard touchdown pass to Casper. Now, in the second game of '78 on September 10th, the Holy Roller, called Immaculate Deception number 2, saw Oakland win 21-20 at San Diego after a fourth-quarter forward fumble by Stabler was caught and forward fumbled by 200 players to score a touchdown and win the game. This caused the Ken Stabler rule to be enacted in '79, permitting only the fumbling player to recovering the ball during a fourth down play or during any down played after the 2-minute warning in a half or overtime. Now, after subpar 78 and 79 seasons in which the Raiders failed to make the playoffs and saw the departure of many team leaders from the Super Bowl run, which included Clarence Davis, Skip Thomas, George Atkinson, Biletnikoff to the CFL, Willie Brown, and head coach John Madden, Stabler was traded in March 1980 to the Oilers for the younger quarterback Dan Pastorini. He left as the Raiders' all-time leader in completions, 1,486, passing yards 1978, and touchdown passes at an even 150. The Oilers saw Stabler as a missing ingredient that would finally get them past the rival Steelers and into the Super Bowl. Houston, however, lacked the exceptional talent and offense that Stabler had thrived with in Oakland, as Earl Campbell and Casper, who was also acquired in a trade from the Raiders, were the few potent weapons they had left. Meanwhile, Pastorini lost a starting job in Oakland to former Heisman Trophy winner Jim Plunkett after an injury, and Plunkett then led the Raiders to a win in Super Bowl 15, which included a playoff win over the Oilers in the wild card game. Houston head coach Bum Phillips was eventually fired shortly after the season, succeeded by defensive coordinator Ed Biles. Now, without the Popper head coach that rejuvenated an otherwise woeful Houston franchise, Stabler did not report to training camp in '81 and announced his retirement through his agent on July 23rd. However, after 5 weeks and an injury to protected starter Gifford Nielsen, he returned to the Oilers in late August and signed a 2-year contract. He had a mediocre season that Houston went 7-9 and missed the playoffs. Now, released by the Oilers after the season, he rejoined Phillips in New Orleans in late August. Now, Dave Wilson had suffered a season-ending injury on August 12th. In mid-September, the Saints traded longtime starter Archie Manning for offensive tackle Leon Gray. By this time, however, the 37-year-old Stabler was past his prime, and the Saints were still a fairly dismal franchise. The first year was interrupted by a 2-month player strike, and New Orleans ended up 4-5 and narrowly missed the expanded playoffs. The 83 season was his best as a Saint. He started 14 games, and while the team's record in those games was only 7-7, Stabler was the starter for the final game of the season in New Orleans against division rival the LA Rams. Had the Saints won the game, they would have finished 9-7 and reached their first trip to the playoffs. However, the Rams pulled out the victory late in the fourth quarter, 26-24. Now, the Saints then acquired New York Jets veteran Richard Todd, who, like Stabler, played for Bryant at Alabama before the 84 season, and Stabler retired in the middle of that season in late October. Now, Stabler was the fastest to win 100 games as a starter, having done so in 150 games. So he was 150 with the Raiders, which, he was 150 overall, which bettered Johnny United's previous mark of 153 games. Since then, only Terry Bradshaw had 147 games, Joe Montana 139 games, and Tom Brady, now retired, at 131 games, had reached 100 wins more quickly. Now, in the early part of 1974, Stabler and several NFL stars agreed to join the newly created WFL. He signed a contract to play for the Birmingham Americans, and he said, "I'm as happy as could be. Getting with a super organization and the financial benefits were key factors, but the biggest thing to me is getting back home. Getting to play before the people in the South is where it's all at for me. In 2 years, I'll be in Birmingham if I have to hitchhike. If I can do for the WFL what Joe Namath did for the AFL, I would feel that I've really accomplished something. I was born in the South and raised in the South and played football in the South. Oakland could have offered me as much money as Birmingham, but he couldn't have let me play in the South. However, the WFL and the Americans eventually folded before and through the 1975 season, and Stabler remained in the NFL without ever playing in the WFL. Now, he had made a deal to be there once he got his release from the Raiders, and it didn't work out. Now, Football Nation, he was named the 27th greatest quarterback of the post-merger era by the association. I would have him top 20, and the reason why: the modern quarterbacks do not have Stabler's mental acumen for the game. He was the most cerebral quarterback I saw besides Roger Staubach, and that's saying a lot. See, with Roger, the nightlife was not a problem, but we'll get into this in a second. Now, the Professional Football Research Association named Stabler to the PFRA Hall of Fame, Hall of Very Good class of 2014, of course, before he got in the Hall of Fame. At the 2016 NFL Honors, it was announced that Stabler had been selected again for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, officially inducted on August 6th of that year. Now, rough stats. Again, 6'3", 215, didn't seem that big, but he was. Again, round 2, 52nd pick of the Raiders. Played with Spokane, Oakland 68-79, Houston 80-81, New Orleans 82-84. Super Bowl champion 11, NFL Most Valuable Player in 74, Offensive Player of the Year in 74, first-time team All-Pro in 74, second-team All-Pro in 76, four-time Pro Bowl 73, 74, 76, 77, two-time NFL passing touchdowns leader 74 and 76, two-time NFL completion percentage leader, 73 and 76, NFL passer rating leader in 76, Burt Bell Award in 76, NFL 1970s All-Decade Team, National Champion in 65, First Team All-American in 67, First Team All-Sec in 67. Touchdowns 194, 222 interceptions, but we'll forgive it. Passing yards 2,738 with a passer rating of 75.3. Now, his best season was his last one with the Tide. He went 103 and 178 for 57.9 percentage and 9 touchdowns. Now, the idea about his NFL career, it was very, very interesting because he only started 2 games in 71 and 72, and he only threw 120 passes. But what really stood out for a lot of people was his percentages. He never completed more than 305 passes in a season, but his percentages was always high. From 1972 to 82, he never passed below 57.9%. But what really killed him was the interceptions, especially in 78 and 79, where he threw 52 over 2 seasons. So it was either working or didn't. Now, his 5 consecutive appearances in conference games from 73 to 75 remained a record for NFL quarterbacks for almost 40 years until Stabler's record was surpassed by Brady in 2016. Now, as of the 2020 season, he was tied with Brett Favre, Jim Kelly, Peyton Manning, Donovan McNabb, Aaron Rodgers, and Ben Roethlisberger for the 6th most conference championship game appearances, and tied for the 4th most AFC championship game appearances. Of course, that will be either eclipsed or beaten in the future. Depends how it goes. Now, following his retirement as a player, he worked as a color commentator, first on the CBS NFL telecast, and then on radio with Eli Gold for the Alabama football games. Stabler left before Alabama's 2008 season and was replaced by Phil Savage. Now, Stabler also served as chairman of the XOXO Stabler Foundation, a 501k non-profit with a mission to raise funds, build awareness and hope for a variety of charitable causes. Now, Stabler's celebrity golf tournaments in Point Clear, Alabama, raised nearly $600,000 for the charitable partner, the Ronald McDonald House of Mobile, which serves as families of seriously ill and injured children receiving medical treatment in local hospitals. Now, in the media, he was featured on a Saturday night live skit as a spokesperson for a fictional product called the Lung Brush. Now, according to legend, and I think this was true, professional wrestler Jake the Snake Roberts adopted his nickname The Snake as a tribute to Stabler. Now, he's also featured on the NFL Legends team and the video game NFL Street, and he also appeared in the 2K video game All Pro Football 2K8. Now, on his personal life, he was married 3 times to Isabel Clark from 68 to 73, Debbie Fitzsimmons from 75 to 78, and Rose Molly Birch from 84 to 2009. Excuse me. Now, Stabler has 3 daughters, had 3 daughters, Kendra Stabler Moyes, Alexa Stabler Adams, and Marissa Lee Stabler. Unfortunately, they did not see their father inducted in the Hall of Fame while living. Now, in 2017, Alexa Stabler Adams was certified by the NFPA as a sports agent. Now, renowned for being cool and cerebral on the field, Stabler was equally legendary for his off-field exploits. He wrote in his 86 autobiography, Snake, the monotony of training camp was so oppressive that without the diversions of whiskey and women, those of us who were wired for activity and no more than 6 hours sleep a night might have gone berserk. Stabler told stories of drunk Raiders teammates pointing guns at him and bailing out a teammate from jail who was now wearing nothing but blue cowboy boots and his Super Bowl ring. We were the only pro team who traveled with its own bail bondsman, he said. Now, Stabler's stories have been legendary. I don't want to go over them here because if the innocent are no longer with us, or if the guilty are no longer with us, I don't want to single them out. But all we know, if half the stories are true, boys, oh boys, oh boys, I would like to party with him. That's all I can say, because I don't think Kenny Stabler ever paid for a drink past 1969, for sure. Unfortunately, he died of colon cancer on July 8, 2015, at the age of 69. He had only been diagnosed with disease in February 2015. After some initial confusion when the Tuscaloosa News leaked a draft obituary for Stabler before his word of his death could be confirmed, his family confirmed his death in a statement issued on July 9th. Now, in February 2016, the New York Times reported that researchers at Boston University discovered high-stage chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, in Stabler's brain after his death. He is buried at Pine Rest cemetery in Foley. Now he took a lot of concussions and a lot of hits, but he was a very cerebral guy. I don't think he was showing much signs of early stage dementia, but he had everything going for him. And he did it all left-handed. I never mentioned that before because left-handed quarterbacks are kind of frowned upon in the NFL and the CFL, but Stabler made it work. But and of course the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame as well. Now you got to understand, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think Ken Stabler's exploits would be as protected as they were the Raiders' exploits. It was a different time, the 1970s. You had Joe Namath that established a lot of that. All the stuff surrounding the Cowboys, all the stuff surrounding the New York teams. But ladies and gentlemen, if I gave a ball to somebody, I wouldn't trust Tom Brady. I'd trust Kenny Stabler. If he needed 45 yards in 30 seconds with Branch, you take that Raiders offense of Biletnikoff and Branch and Casper and Van Egan and everybody else, Marv Hubbard. I would trust if the Raiders in their prime would play Brady in his prime. I don't think Tom Brady could have bet Ken Stabler because Tom Brady is workmanlike while Ken Stabler is the gambler. That was another nickname he had that a lot of the Canadian media gave to him. We call him the gambler. And I don't think it really had anything to do with the Kenny Rogers song, because he gave his body for his sport. He took a lot more hits than Joe Namath did towards the end, because they were protective of Joe Namath. If you see the Joe Namath NFL documentaries, how some of the players took it easy on him. I'm telling you something, ladies and gentlemen, in Houston and New Orleans, he had the shit kicked out of him in certain games. There was a game, I think, a conference game I watched on the French channel, when he came over to New Orleans, and he had to be sacked 10 or 11 times, and the announcer in French said, "Where's his offensive line? Are they drinking water on the sidelines?" Because you would get concerned, because Kenny Stabler, even when he was in New Orleans, he still had talent. But for him to survive everything, the only parallel I can think with Stabler is Joe Namath. But Joe Namath never had the constant success that Stabler had with the Raiders, because they're always top three in the AFC, and who would defeat them? It would be the Steelers, the Dolphins. There'd be a whole kind of like the Colts. That was another rival as well, and later on the Chargers. But I mean, a Sunday afternoon, Kenny Stabler for the Raiders or playing with the Oilers. I remember when the past we would wait all week for that. Was Stabler going to be on? And I know there's people staying home in Canada throughout the nation. If Stabler was on, if you got that early game on the French channel, or because ATV, CTV had the AFC games, boys, we felt so honored because he was a living legend. A running legend, no, not as much towards the end. But ladies and gentlemen, you got to understand, when people brag up Tom Brady, we had 15 or 20 players like Kenny Stabler at quarterback from 1966 to about when Marino arrived at Elway. How many do we have now? 5? We had 25. And Stabler, no matter win or lose, that's Ken Stabler. You gotta know how much he meant the Raider Nation. The man was a living legend just by being himself. He surely made some controversial decisions in his life, but who doesn't? And there's not a day goes by that I don't miss him. Late 60s is not a life now. He could went back to commentating. Can you imagine what he would say about what happened with Tom Brady and all the great playoff games this year? He saw what it reminds me when Holy Roller and the different games. But people became Raiders fans for 2 reasons: John Madden and the Snake. And you can never take that away. And the current Raiders, every time the Raiders takes the field, the goals of Kenny Stabler, like the goals of the Forum for Montreal, are around. And no matter if they're Las Vegas or Oakland or wherever they are, or LA, but Kenny Stabler lives on. I want you to find John Fazenza, the Win is a Raider, that poem, and listen to that with Stabler highlights in the background on YouTube. You know where I come from. And me, I'm not even a Raiders fan per se. I'm a Ken Stabler fan. because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan from the first. But boys, oh boys, on certain days when Danny White was playing, I said to Stabler, I wish Stabler would have came over to Dallas. Can you imagine? But that Danny White, we lost 3 straight NFC titles. I don't think they would have lost those titles to Stabler, in my personal opinion. So technically, Stabler maybe have cost Dallas 3 Super Bowls by not playing with them. Anyway, a man can dream. So ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with our NFL Vintage podcast, let us know with a like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget, the legend of the snake is true. The legend of Kenny Stabler and Jake the Snake Roberts are infinitely connected because they're legends not only for everyone, but in their own mind. If you can do it and you can back it up, it ain't bragging. It's talent, ladies and gentlemen. And Ken Stabler and talent has close to the same letters, S-T-A-B-L-E-R, T-A-L-E-N-T, pretty close. Have a good day. Bye.